Please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as Sister Kathleen O'Brien, Provincial Coordinator of the School Sisters of St. Francis, comes to the podium to give our invocation.
Let's take a moment of silence to remember those injured and those who died in the terrible tragedy in Waukesha this weekend. And for them, we ask God's blessing and healing. And of course, it reminds us, as many of the sacred scriptures say, we never know the date or the time that we will leave this earth. So on this Thanksgiving week, I think we have to be grateful for what we have. So let's indeed be grateful for our eyes that can see and ponder, for our taste buds that know the sensuous pleasure of eating and drinking, for our hands that hold and touch and feel, for our ears that can delight in music and the voice of a friend, for our nose that can smell the aroma of the turkey we may eat, or other delicious food, and can also breathe the air that gives us life. And for these everyday miracles in this Thanksgiving week, let us give thanks. Amen.
Thank you, Sister O'Brien. Also like to send a special thank you out to our sponsors whose logos appeared on the presentation before we started the program today. If your organization is interested in being a sponsor of Rotary, please contact the Rotary office for more information. I would like to welcome our virtual audience and all of you here in the room. We do have a number of guests in the room to recognize, so when I call your name, please stand so you can be recognized. Patrick Rath from the United Performing Arts Fund, Lori Pinella from Marquette University, Tiffany Benson, court reporter for the state of Wisconsin, Angela Smith, the Badger Institute, Will Ward, Atlas Milwaukee, Sue Frauchi, Friends of Lakeshore State Park, Millie Kobe from Employ Milwaukee, Shannon Ross from the community, and Kennedy Pentongill, a student at DePaul University. We're very happy to have you at Rotary today. Thank you for coming to our club. So in a few moments, we've got Michael Jahr. Jahr was the original Norwegian pronunciation that we had talked about previously. So my apologies. But before we get Michael up here, we've got some Rotary business to take care of. One of the best parts of Rotary is introducing new members. So please welcome John Scholes, Senior Project Executive at Gilbane Building Company, as he introduces our newest member to the club.
Thank you, Todd. One important factor that I wanted to make sure that Reggie does get a pin today, because that was the ultimate objective after last week that we saw. But I am proudly here to present Reggie Reed to Milwaukee Rotary. I met Reggie several years ago at a presentation I gave at Manpower on the state of construction, and he was quick to come up to me and challenge me on intimate details of that presentation. And it just shows the type of individual he is. Reggie presented to the Rotary Inclusion Committee on a couple times, educating the Committee on Education, Employment, Challenges, Solutions that his company, Mindful Solutions, offers. He is the founder and president of Mindful Solutions. A single father of two. His daughter, Victoria, who is a violinist and cheerleader, and son, Rain, who has an acute knowledge of automobiles and most philosophical questions about asking his father that he takes after him with his obsessive thinking approach, and a problem solver. You'll find the future Rotary breakfasts and luncheons conversations with Reggie always go deep, and then they go deeper. The conversation I encourage all you to question Reggie about is the definition of commitment. Is a common conversation him and I have. He has a unique and innovative approach to workforce and improve the overall quality and communities business that make Milwaukee thrive. He recently launched a bank-free homeowners program that is fueled by workforce development, training, and employment. He is currently building a software that aims to remove the biases from the world of employment entirely, instead uses metrics to drive the decisions similar to a sports draft. With great pleasure, I welcome Reggie to Milwaukee Rotary Club.
Thank you, John, for the introduction. It's appreciated. I just want to say, firstly, thank you all for the work you do as an organization, as individuals. And 5 years ago, I made a conscious decision to dedicate the rest of my life and the rest of my work to problem solving, to solve world problems. And I'm grateful to be a member of a group that has the same exact mindset. So thank you, guys, and I look forward to engaging with each and every one of you.
Reggie. Oh, yeah, good. Welcome. I've got a thank you. Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you, John, and thank you, Reggie. We're all looking forward to getting to know you, and we're glad to have you in our club. Now, Margaret Cry, attorney at Scopoletis, Garvin, Light, Hansen, and Fury, will give us an update from the scholarship committee.
Good afternoon. I'm Margaret Cry. I serve on the scholarship committee, where I lead the scholar support subcommittee. I also mentor a scholar who is a sophomore at METC this year. As head of the scholar support team, we help ensure that the 21 students in our program, many of whom are the first in their family to attend college, receive the support they need beyond scholarship dollars to be successful. We plan educational programming that supports the overall growth and development of the students. And this summer, students gathered to learn how to write their elevator pitch and speak about themselves and their accomplishments with confidence. Last week, scholars attended our resume workshop where they crafted resumes so that they are ready to apply for summer internships. Speaking of summer internships, if your company or organization hires college students for summer internships or employment, please share job or internship details with Melissa, who will wave her hand if you don't know who Melissa is. We have provided financial education and helped to connect students to employment. It is this holistic approach of our scholars that helps them to be successful and makes the scholarship program a good investment. The scholarship committee has set a goal of tying scholarships to endowments to provide stability and sustainability into the future. While the RCM Scholarship Golf Classic will remain an integral way to support and celebrate the scholarship program, growing our scholarship endowments will relieve year-to-year variability. Please consider investing in the future of this program with a gift to the scholarship endowment. If you've lost track of the pledge card you received in the mail earlier this month, you can make a gift on the RCM website by clicking Donate and referencing the scholarship program in the notes field, or you may send a check to the Rotary office. Many thanks to the Zilber Family Foundation for helping us reach our goals with a $10,000 match. And many thanks to you for your support of our scholars.
For those of you who aren't familiar, the scholarship program that this club puts on is really phenomenal. One of the crown jewels of what this club does. So thank you, Margaret, and thanks to the rest of the committee for all your hard work. Quick reminder, Wednesday, December 8th, we are having our Rotary holiday party, 5 to 7:30 at the Central Standard Craft House on Clybourne Avenue. You can sign up at the registration table or RSVP through the website that was in today's earlier email. We're looking forward to celebrating the holidays with you at one of the coolest new spaces in downtown Milwaukee. Now, Maggie Opplinger, General Director and CEO at the Florentine Opera, will give us an update regarding our membership recruitment.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I was here a few weeks ago, and I asked you all to think about who was in the room and who wasn't here. Who do we need from Milwaukee to be part of Rotary to keep us doing everything that we have done so well for so long? And I'm very excited to see Reggie join us today. Welcome. And I'm even more excited to see how many guests we have in the room. So clearly, a few of you are listening. Thank you very much. Taking that to another level, many of you should know, hopefully, that we are in a competition at the moment to see whether Todd's board or all of us can bring in more wonderful members by the end of the year, Mary? June 30th. So as we go, at our last conversation, we were neck and neck, and the membership group has pulled together, I believe we are at 9 to 5. So Todd, try a little harder. And everyone here who's visiting, we're so happy to have you. And for all of you who are members, please keep that in mind, that we are so excited to keep this club thriving and growing. And each of you knows people in Milwaukee that some of us might not have met yet who would be wonderful additions to the club. So please feel free to reach out to me or to Mary McCormick if you have questions and are interested in bringing someone to join us for lunch. We would love to help you do that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie, and great work for the good guys. Obviously, you know, this is a challenge that no matter who wins, the whole club benefits. So thank you for everybody who's introduced members, and again, everybody else. If you know somebody who'd be a good Rotarian, please refer them on. Thank you to everybody who participated last week in the Thai Rotarian Tour at Marathon Machines last week. We had almost 35 members there at that tour, which was a great turnout. Tour was led by the president and founder, Glenn Reed, who moved his organization to Milwaukee from Silicon Valley. And we're excited to be able to bring those Thai Rotarian tours back this year. We're looking forward to a robust Thai Rotarian tour schedule starting in January of 2022. Special thanks to Avi Lank and Jerry Stepaniak for providing the club with those great opportunities. For those of you who signed up for the Done in a Day bell ring with the Salvation Army, thank you very much. All the spots are now full. If you are interested and find yourself on Saturday, December 4th, either by the public market or the downtown Metro Market, please stop by, say hello to your fellow Rotarians, and support the Salvation Army. We are still in the process of collecting information about the audio here in this room. There are on everybody's table little pieces of paper where you guys can go through and give your comment, give us your feedback on the audio in this room. Obviously, it's something we're continuing to work on, want to continue to improve, and the best way for us to do that is with your feedback. So if you guys are experiencing challenges, fill those cards out, leave them on the tables, and at the end of the program, we will pick those up. And it helps let us know where we're seeing challenges and where we're not. Last week, we did mention that one of our club members tested positive after attending a Rotary meeting for COVID. We did follow the CDC program. People were notified who were in close proximity, which is within 6 feet for 15 or more minutes. We were able to check in with all those members and are happy to report that no other positive cases came from that. So that is the second time in probably the last 2 or 3 months we have had somebody test positive for COVID after attending Rotary. This room is very well ventilated. You know, it's a large room, so that's a protection. And for most of you, you're noticing we're at 4 people at a table as opposed to 8. So we are continuing to take precautions. I know we're all looking forward to the day when we no longer have to take those precautions and we can return to, a quote unquote normal. But for now, we ask everybody to just be conscientious. Wearing masks is one of the best ways to prevent the spread. So we do encourage people to wear masks when they're not eating or drinking. Finally, and our last announcement, next week's meeting, November 30th, we have Rochelle Pennington here to share with us the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald. So it is going to be a long program. We are going to skip club business next week. It's a full hour. So we're going to start that right away. It may go a couple minutes long, so keep that in mind. One other note on that is Rochelle prefers us not to stream her presentation online. So next week, Tuesday, will only be available here in person. If you are trying to watch it from home, that will not be available next week. So keep that in mind and plan accordingly. Now, Natraj Shankar, co-founder of Flex Tech Design LLC, will introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President Todd. The topic that our speaker today is going to be addressing and talking about is something that's very dear to my heart as district chair for the Rotary Community Corps on the program for rehab for formerly incarcerated individuals, rehabilitation. I think this is a very appropriate time and place, and I'd like to introduce Michael Jahr. He's the Senior Vice President of the Badger Institute. He is an experienced communication strategist who uses storytelling and networking to build movements, inform public opinion, and improve ties. Prior to joining the Badger Institute in 2017, he served as a communications director at the Kern Family Foundation. From 2005 to 2012, he was vice president for communications at the Mackinac Center for Public Policy, a Michigan-based free market and think tank. He also spent 10 years as communications director and press secretary of the Capitol Hill, working for a U.S. congressman. Jahr works in the policy arena spans a wide array of issues. He has written on subjects ranging from corrections, reform to school collective bargaining, and his work has appeared on the Wall Street Journal, the Weekly Standard, the Milwaukee Journal, Detroit News, and other outlets. Jahr serves on the board of the God Touch Milwaukee, a ministry that provides housing, mentoring, and employment to men coming out of incarceration or struggling with addiction. He also is a founding board member of Launch Milwaukee, a nonprofit organization that delivers high-quality entrepreneurial development services to underserved communities in Milwaukee. I'm pleased to introduce Michael Jahr.
Thank you very much. I don't know how I'm going to even compete with the Edmund Fitzgerald, so I'm not going to try. And Reggie, congratulations. I had a chance to sit down and actually see one of Reggie's presentation on metrics probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I had no idea what he was talking about, but I could tell it was a brilliant approach. So congratulations. Let me begin with just a little bit of background about the Badger Institute. We are a free market oriented, nonprofit, public policy research organization that basically looks for ways that we can take Wisconsin and make it a better place. We look for ways to create opportunity through public policy. We look through ways to create prosperity through public policy. And some of our work is shown up here. We have policy reports, we have policy briefs, we have a magazine, we have a podcast, and if you're interested in any of these resources, please feel free to visit our website at badgerinstitute.org. We just started our podcast a few months ago, and we've got just some terrific subject matter experts, thought leaders who have weighed in on some of the issues of the day, so please check it out. Some of the areas of focus for the Badger Institute, which has been around since 1987, some of you might know it as the Wisconsin Policy Research Institute, but we focus on areas like how can we make the tax structure in Wisconsin more competitive? How can we finance our highways and roads? What are better ways to approach K-12 education to make sure that Wisconsin kids are getting the best education possible? And in this case, what can we do to make sure that we have a prepared workforce, that people can be coming we have an abundance of job openings. How do we meet that, and how do we make sure people are prepared to participate in our workforce? So that's what I'll be focusing on today. As Natraj mentioned, we are going to be talking about why hiring the previously incarcerated is good business. So let me start by stating the obvious. Wisconsin needs workers. How many people here work for any sort of an enterprise organization that right now is looking to hire people, that needs to fill the void? Yeah, that's not surprising. A good number of hands went up, and we have, I was looking at the Job Center for Wisconsin's website just this morning. They have 130,000 unfilled positions just in that one site alone in Wisconsin. That's more than 20,000 more than just in July. And that affects every sector of our business community: service industry, healthcare, transportation, construction, agriculture, production, you name it. I was recently talking to Steve Coleman at the Independent Business Association of Wisconsin, and I said, Steve, how is this impacting your members? And he said that there's almost not anyone that's a member of their organization that isn't hiring, particularly in manufacturing. He said 100% of the manufacturers he talks to in Wisconsin need employees. That's consistent with what the WMC found in their summer survey back in July. 87%, almost 9 out of 10 members of the WMC say that they need workers. And then there's an effect on consumers as well. This is just in Oconomowoc, where I live. The hot dog or the hamburger, one of the hamburger shops will give you a $500 signing bonus, even if you come on just to do part-time work. My dry cleaner, I went on Saturday to drop off some clothes, and they were closed on Saturdays, and they're opening 2 hours later during the week. And most tragically of all, Dairy Queen is not open except for the drive-through. This is a hardship that I've had to struggle with. So some of you may be engaged in this. There are pay increases, signing bonuses, free college tuition. Some actually are providing free college tuition, relaxed work requirements. None of these incentives are doing the job. So what can employers do? Now, I want to look briefly at the other side of the equation. So we've looked at the demand side. Let's look at potential supply side here. According to the Wisconsin Department of Corrections website, there are just over 20,000 people incarcerated in Wisconsin in state facilities. Over 37% of them will be out in 2 years or less. Some 60% of them will be out in 5 years or less. 60% of the people incarcerated in our prison system in Wisconsin are going to be coming out in the next 5 years. Almost half of these inmates have never been incarcerated before, and 70% have earned at least a high school diploma or the equivalent. Through the DOC, they provide educational and training programs, and many inmates actually leave prison with new skills and education that increases their post-release job readiness. One example is the Windows to Work program, which operates in several adult institutions and a handful of county jails. Participants receive classroom training in areas like cognitive intervention, general work skills and expectations, financial literacy, community resources, applications, and resumes, among other things. In 2018, 78% of those who participated in this program or received other corrections-based programming ended up obtaining employment following release. There are other DOC programs that do the same thing, providing technical skills and career education. There are partnerships all across the state with the technical schools, and they have provided hundreds of jobs across the state for those who have received their certification in industries like manufacturing, barbering, welding, industrial maintenance, construction, dairy, and automotive. And of those released from prison and eligible for work, 95% have completed these programs, are now currently employed. So work is essential on many levels. And the most important factor that deters recidivism and enables a successful transition to society is employment. Among adults in Wisconsin who worked full-time all year in 2017, only 2% were poor, while almost 19% of those who did not work at all had an opportunity, could be poor. I worded that oddly. So basically, if somebody in Wisconsin worked full-time all year long, they only had a 2% chance of being below the poverty line. But if they didn't work, they had close to a 19% chance of being below the poverty line. Work makes a difference. Since many individuals live in poverty before they're incarcerated, gainful employment after release can break the cycle of poverty and criminal behavior within those families. The benefits of work have been widely studied and confirmed in scholarly research. Having a job gives people purpose. It gives them social connections, human capital, and monetary resources. Someone who's working, instead of going back to a life of crime, enhances public safety, saves taxpayers money, decreases the need for public benefits, turns the individual into a taxpayer, so they're actually contributing as opposed to receiving, provides all the benefits of earned success. Now, if as an employer, you're thinking about doing this, but you're on the fence, you have some qualms, you have some concerns about this approach, there are resources out there that can actually maybe alleviate some of those concerns. The Work Opportunity Tax Credit is a federal tax credit for employers who hire those with criminal records. According to the Department of Workforce Development, employers can claim up to 40% of the first $6,000 in qualified wages for the first year for a maximum credit of $2,400 per new hire. Sometimes an employer's criminal record prevents employers from securing the traditional employee bonding against criminal activity or dishonest behavior. There is a federal bonding program that addresses this issue by incentivizing employers to hire individuals who have taken on this additional risk. FBP bonds are free of charge and protect employers with no deductible and covers the first 6 months of their individual's employment. I'm sorry, I am a little under the weather, a little bit dry mouth today, but it's not COVID, I got tested. In Wisconsin, job seekers can simply register at the Wisconsin Job Center, and after that, there are no applications. There's no paperwork, there are no regulations. It's a very simple process. Employers may also experience lower turnover with the formerly incarcerated employees. Sorry, got one ahead there. Which actually can save thousands of dollars in hiring and onboarding costs, because many of these individuals are required to maintain employment by a judge or by their agent, and that, as a part of their supervision, provides a powerful incentive to succeed in the workplace. There are also numerous nonprofits and government agencies that assist employers with finding and hiring people with criminal records. And I'm just going to touch on just a sliver of them. There are so many good organizations, so many creative things that are being done, as you know, just in communities that are cropping up all over. So this is just scratching the surface. There are organizations like the Joseph Project, which many of you may be familiar with. The Joseph Project is a partnership between Senator Ron Johnson's office and the Greater Praise Church of God in Christ on the north side of Milwaukee. And it's really born out of a very simple idea that people who are unemployed in Milwaukee quite often just need transportation to address that issue. And so by using church buses, they began a couple of years ago to drive people up to Sheboygan County, where there are a number of manufacturers who were desperate for employees. And as a result of this, it has grown and has expanded into Milwaukee, Wausau, Green Bay, and so on. And many people are getting opportunities to have good paying, full benefits jobs. The Sheboygan Economic Development Corporation has been so pleased with this project that they have actually contributed a couple of vans to the Joseph Project. And they call it a pipeline for qualified individuals for their employers. There are many other nonprofits, Project Return, God Touch Milwaukee, Community Warehouse, Partners in Hope, Jobs Work Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Transitional Jobs Reentry. There are just a number of organizations that if you are looking for partners, if you are looking for ways to enter this space, can come alongside you, can show you models. The Milwaukee Transitional Jobs Reentry Project focuses on connecting Milwaukee area employers and employees who have criminal records. The Job Center of Wisconsin provides information and assistance to both employers and employees, including resources for taking advantage of specialized programs. The Getting Talent Back to Work initiative, which is a partnership between the Koch Industries and the Society for Human Resource Management, helps connect businesses around the country with re-entering applicants. And they've got a toolkit that follows industry standards based on the latest research to help employers and their attorneys design best practices to significantly reduce any liability associated with hiring ex-offenders. So, hiring, this is not a novel concept either. Hiring ex-offenders actually puts you in very good company in the state of Wisconsin and in the Milwaukee area. Some of you may be familiar with Bill Harrigan. Bill has a company called Harrigan Solutions. It's based in Grafton, and they do machine maintenance as a service provider. 90% of his 50 employees have come out of the incarceration system in some way, shape, or form. When asked what he would tell employers who are looking to hire individuals with a criminal record, he says, when an organization improves its ability to engage individuals with a checkered work history, it also improves the engagement and performance of everyone else. It becomes a competitive advantage to be able to better harness the talents and ideas of all employees, not to mention better retention and lower hiring costs. The Sheboygan Economic Development Corporation reports that it has seen equal or better retention through the Joseph Project than the businesses who were recruiting themselves in Sheboygan County. So they actually found that when people coming up from out of Milwaukee, they were more likely to stick around than the people who were hired immediately around by the businesses themselves. Wentz Davidson Engineering Company, one of the fastest growing companies in the Milwaukee area, has hired former offenders for the past 20 years, both from work release programs and through the regular application process. According to Fred Anderson, the president and CEO, all of his employees are held to the same standards of behavior and work ethic, regardless of their background. It really has been a positive impact on the company, he says, because we have dedicated employees who appreciate the opportunity that we have provided. Law Tanning, which manufactures leather here in Milwaukee and sells it all around the world, they've been based here since 1936. They hire almost all of their employees through temp hiring, and then if they work out, then they hire them full time. So they don't know quite often if somebody has a record or not when they initially hire them. But over the course of time, as they discover that actually an awful lot of their employees do have a criminal record. Individuals are given a chance to prove themselves, the law says, and if they show up and are willing to learn, they almost always secure a full-time job. Hiring decisions depend on the individual, he says. I never want to judge someone based on group identity. If they are good people, I want to hire them. According to a 2018 survey by the Society of Human Resource Management and the Koch Institute, 82% of managers and 67% of HR professionals said that they feel that the quality of hire for employees with criminal records was equal to or better than those without records. I'm sort of nervous that my boss might find this out, fire me, and hire somebody more dependable with a criminal record. But yeah, 82% of managers and 67% of HR professionals feel that the quality of hire for employees was equal or better than those without records. Additionally, 78% of Americans said that they feel comfortable purchasing goods or services from a business that employs individuals with nonviolent criminal records. The Getting Talent Back to Work initiative has enrolled more than 2,300 U.S. companies, including giants like Walmart and Starbucks, in its Second Chances Hiring Pledge, which is businesses basically committing to hire the formerly incarcerated. And these are just a few who are part of that, either that program or a few of those Wisconsin businesses who are engaged in hiring ex-offenders here in Wisconsin. But again, this is just a fraction of the organizations doing this. So we deal with public policy, and we're looking at ways that we can change policy to make it easier for people in Wisconsin to succeed. One area that would work, I think, wonders in this area would be to reform Wisconsin's expungement law. So Wisconsin has an expungement law on the books, but it's really kind of weird in how it's set up. It's unlike any other expungement law in the state. Basically, expungement means that you can get your record cleared, your record sealed if you have a low-level crime on your in your past. But what Wisconsin says is you have to be under the age of 25 to be able to qualify for that. You have to have committed the crime under the age of 25 to be able to qualify. You have to request that the judge consider expungement at the time of sentencing. Well, at the time of sentencing, the judge has no information about whether or not you're going to turn your life around, how you're going to behave. But if you 20 years later decide, okay, I've made a success out of myself, I've gotten my act together, I'd really like to get my record expunged, it's too late in Wisconsin. You have to do it at that time or you're out of luck. So Marlena Rucker is a woman who from Milwaukee who could benefit from this reform. She has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a certificate in web page design, and she's completed the Associates in Commercial Real Estate program at Marquette. She has consistently held a job since earning her degree from UW Parkside nearly 20 years ago. For the past 5 years, she has worked at a church in Milwaukee where she was promoted to a supervisory position. But while she enjoys the work that she does at the church, she struggles to make ends meet and relies on government programs to provide for herself and her daughter. The reason is a 1996 forgery that she committed when she was 22 years old. She completed her sentence. She hasn't committed a crime since. But this single conviction has haunted her for 25 years. I didn't realize how one felony would help me keep me in a box for the rest of my life, she says. So there is a bill in the legislature that we've been working on for a number of years that would remove the age restriction, allow the judge to consider after the time of sentencing, and would make it illegal to consider expunged crimes for employment purposes. The bill would not expand any crimes, would not expand it to any felonies or anything else. It stays in its limited form to nonviolent one-time offenses. But it would enable a lot more people to take advantage of it. The bill is sponsored or supported by the WMC, AFP Wisconsin, MMAC, and many, many, many other groups across the ideological divide. It passed the state assembly easily earlier this year, and it enjoys bipartisan support in the Senate. It was scheduled for final passage just a few weeks ago, but one senator withdrew his support at the very last minute. Literally, it was scheduled to come to the floor. He withdrew his support at the last minute, and the bill was not able to be voted on. It's our hope that with public demand for this reform, that we can get this thing back on track and get it across the finish line. So if you have any interest in this issue, please talk to me afterward. So I've thrown a lot of kind of, as a think tank person, thrown a lot of data and statistics and numbers at you. But I want to also share just a couple of stories real quick, because that's what it's about. It's about the human need. Jonathan was a longtime gang member, a drug dealer, pretty well known in the gang community here in Wisconsin. And he did time, not surprisingly. But when he got out, he decided he really wanted to turn his life around. He had lost custody of his children. He had lost access to his children. So he went to God Touch Milwaukee, and a program that provides housing, employment, faith-based, and mentorship, and kind of comes alongside men who are coming out of this situation. They helped him to find work, and over the course of several months, he worked at George Webb. He delivered pizzas as he worked to get his commercial driver's license. Over about 15 months, Jonathan was able to meet all the criteria that allowed him to begin to see his children again. By the time that he finally earned his CDL, he had gotten married. He had reunited with his children. He had actually gotten custody of his children, and he's now earning $30 to $35 an hour driving a truck and helping to offset the supply chain issues that we have in his own little way. A little bit about another gentleman named Albert. Albert was involved in the Chicago gangs in the 1990s, did a number of things that got him incarcerated for a very long period of time down in Illinois. And when he got out, he had experience cutting hair in the prison system. So he ended up being hired by a barber shop, and he cut hair for a number of years, ended up moving to Green Bay. In Green Bay, he flourished, actually ended up cutting the hair of one of the Green Bay Packers, which led to more of the Green Bay Packers coming to him, and eventually he had several of them who were getting their haircut by Albert. Albert also had become a minister, and so he actually not only cut hair for people in Green Bay, for men in Green Bay, he actually mentored them. And Mike Daniels, who many of you may remember, he actually officiated Mike Daniels' wedding. That's how close this barber had ties to these guys. Albert wanted to open his own shop. There were some licensing restrictions here in Wisconsin that prevented him from doing that or made it much more difficult for him to do that. We worked with him to try to get those laws changed, and eventually were successful. And now Albert has the coolest barbershop in Wisconsin. If you're ever up in Green Bay, it's called Imago Day. It has a pool table, it has a drum set, has a recording studio, big screen TVs for watching all the sports events, and Albert is flourishing. So really what it comes down to is, we have a worker shortage that can compel businesses to seek employees that they might not have otherwise considered in the past. But there are resources, there are allies, there are partnerships that can help make this more successful. Individuals coming out of the correction system are often eager to work, and businesses with a record of hiring them frequently attest to the benefits of doing so. We've published just a couple of years ago a handbook that lays out a lot of these same resources, materials, information. If that would be helpful to you, we have a number of them over here. It's also available online at thebadgerinstitute.org. And at this point, I would be glad to take any questions. Again, I apologize for my voice. Oh, yeah, go ahead. I can't say that I was hoping that somebody would ask that, but I'm glad that somebody asked. Senator Chris, oh, I'm sorry, the question was which senator, I promised you I would do that, which senator withdrew his support for the expungement law? Senator Chris Kapenga was one of the supporters of the bill who at the last moment changed his vote. I haven't heard exactly what the reasoning was behind that, but we're hoping that we can get him back on board. There are a sufficient number of votes to actually pass the law tomorrow, but the Republican leadership wants to have I think it's a majority of the Republican senators in support of it. So if one of the 17 who currently supports it peels off, then they're not going to bring it to the floor. So that's where that stands. Yeah, Reggie. So what's being done at the state level to incentivize employers to basically take these kinds of steps? Okay, yeah, good question. Not much. One of the challenges that we've faced with the current legislative makeup is that a lot of these reforms are much harder to get across the finish line than you would expect. So we've seen employers taking a number of voluntary actions, like eliminating drug testing or other things, but not a lot has been done at the state level at this point to make it much easier. There are some good things being done, as I touched on within the educational process in the Department of Corrections. There are some really crazy initiatives that are underway. In Wausau, for instance, they have a seminary program. So you can actually go and get a full seminary degree in the prison system in Wausau. They're becoming creative in terms of all the kinds of offerings, technical skills, the trades, and so on and so forth. I think that the Department of Corrections does recognize that this really is an area for them to grow and expand, and I think they are taking steps to do that. But in terms of like legislation and so on, not much is happening at this moment. Yes. Yeah. It's a good question. So the question is basically, what population of the unemployed in our state have a criminal record? Does that sum it up? I don't know that actually. That's something we could look into and get back to you. The overall statistics, I forget now. At the national level, it's something like, is it 1 in 3 people have in America have some sort of a criminal record? It's a surprisingly high number. Is that too high? Okay. Yeah, 1 in 3 have an arrest record, a felonious arrest record. So I would imagine the numbers are very high. Now, prior to COVID, we were actually making great strides in terms of Milwaukee, of people with either no work experience at all or with a criminal record were getting jobs up in Sheboygan County, for instance, and elsewhere in great numbers. And that has really slacked since COVID came on board. I was exchanging some information with the Sheboygan Economic Development Corporation just this morning. We were texting back and forth, and basically they're looking to really ramp up again right now. They are paying some of the businesses up there for low skilled or no skilled work are paying $24 an hour just to bring people on board, and they're really looking to take their partnership with the Joseph Project and re-engage that at a much higher level. So I'm hoping that others are doing the same thing, and we'll see some progress here in the short term. Yes. So does the success of these programs, what was it? Yeah, so the question is basically, is there a difference in success between men and women who are involved in these programs? So men make up about 94% of the prison population here in Wisconsin. So there are a lot more programs that are kind of geared, I think, toward men, but there are a lot that also do incorporate women. Like the Joseph Project has many women that have gone through its doors, and I know many others that are doing that. I couldn't tell you if there's a difference between the success rate or not, but I do know that there are a lot of men and women, particularly in the Milwaukee area, who are looking for those opportunities and doing so actively. And there are programs for them. Yes, Shannon. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll never be able to sum all that up. But in essence, the question is basically, should there be resources, or is it practical to have resources to help the culture and the climate of the business when these kinds of workers are being hired? Which is a very good question. Yes, I do think there are some groups that try to do that. Like I know, again, I'm just going to kind of keep coming back to the Joseph Project, but I know that part of what they do as they transport people to and from Sheboygan, for instance, is they have an hour or more of time where the driver, who is usually somebody who's a part of the project, is interacting with them and saying, how are things going? What are you dealing with? What struggles and challenges are there? And then more of that takes place at the Joseph Project itself. I know other organizations are doing that, but I think it is a valid challenge from both sides, because you've got people who are all of a sudden maybe being exposed to coworkers who have a record, and maybe there is some discomfort with that. You also have people that maybe don't have a lot of work experience who are going into a very different culture than what they're used to, and there's a lot of adaptation. One of the things that Bill Harrigan does very well at Harrigan Solutions is he actually has his employees take skill and strength tests to kind of determine where their skills lie, where their interests lie. And then he tries to position them and plug them in accordingly and determine who has leadership skills. And he's had guys who have come out of who have initially come into the program standoffish, kind of surly, kind of sitting removed from anywhere else. But over the course of time, kind of determining where their skills lie, engaging in them, and finding out what their interests are. Some of these same individuals have risen to the top of who have become team leaders and are some of the best workers that they have. So it really is important to engage that and have a wraparound. Are you familiar with any that exist? I know the community is doing some. Yeah. So Yeah, so the community run by Shannon Ross is an example of one that's just, this is fairly new, right? I mean, you kind of have this up and running just for a short time, and okay, so it's been going on for 6 years, but 14 months that Shannon's been actively engaged in this. So, any other questions? Yes, whichever one of you talks first. Yeah, the question is basically, are there other areas of the state that are as engaged in this as Sheboygan County? I think one of the reasons that Sheboygan County really stands out as a little bit of an outlier is there are so many manufacturers headquartered in Sheboygan. So a couple of years ago, they had a 3,000 employee deficit in Sheboygan County. I would imagine that number has probably grown. So that's one of the reasons that Sheboygan County has been so actively participating in this type of program. But we have seen similar programs in Dane County, in Wausau, in Green Bay, I think in Eau Claire. So I know that other efforts along these lines are taking place, and I know that the desperation level for employees is at a fever pitch. Yes, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, very good question. You could not have teed that up any more nicely. So the question is basically, um, for people that have to be licensed in order to practice their profession, quite often there's a pretty intensive look back at their records, which in a way that can often prevent them from getting the job, or it certainly can drag it out considerably. We hear those stories and see that happen quite a bit. I don't know about at the municipal level if there are actions, but I know at the state level that Senator Dale Kuyanga has a bill that would basically work with DISPIS, with the state agency that oversees licensing, to minimize how much looking back at a person's correctional record is involved. What we see happen basically is you have somebody. This is a story of a young woman who wanted to be a cosmetologist, get her cosmetology license here in Milwaukee. She had, when she was a teenager, gotten into a verbal, loud, angry confrontation with her parents in her front yard, and had gotten a disorderly conduct. That stayed on her record, and so when she went to get her license, the state agency continued to ask her, and they put all the impetus on the individual. They say, you need to track down your court records, and you need to submit those. You need to track down the police records, and you need to submit those. It's time consuming. It's costly, and it becomes a real problem for those who are trying to get licensed and just want to work. So we do a lot of work in the licensing area, but Senator Kuyanga does have a bill that would, I think, streamline that process considerably. Do we have time for one more? Or?
One more.
Sorry, I thought I saw one more hand, but oh yeah, did you have a question?
I have a question, which is when you're looking at the success of the driving process, it's more in terms of transportation that we can. So it's kind of a busing model. Are we doing anything to create communities within communities that not travel within the community?
Yeah, there is some effort along those lines. I know that in Sheboygan, for instance. Sorry, I keep doing that. Yes, the question is there an effort to kind of create a community so people don't have to travel an hour or an hour and a half from Milwaukee to Sheboygan to get to their work and so on? I know there have been efforts along those lines, and I think some of them have been modestly successful. Some of it is that if your family If you grew up in Milwaukee, your family here, your friends are here, your connections are here. People are sometimes hesitant to completely relocate to a place where they don't know anybody, they don't have any ties. So I know that there are efforts along those lines, and some of that has happened, but I don't think it's an issue that's been resolved to anyone's satisfaction.
Michael, thank you for coming to our club today. In honor of leaders like you who come to speak to us, we will make a donation in your name to the YWCA of Southeastern Wisconsin, whose mission is eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. So thank you. We also have one of our lovely Rotary Connecting mugs for you as a memento of your speech here and for joining us today. A few last reminders. Please RSVP for the holiday party Wednesday, December 8th. You can do that either at the table outside or through the email that was sent this morning. Our next Coffee Connector takes place Thursday, December 16th at Spacetime Coffee from 7:30 till 9 o'clock a.m. So if you're available, please put that down on your calendars. And then just one final reminder, next week, Rochelle Pennington's 60-minute program will take place. That is only in person. It will not be online, so please join us here in Memorial Hall for that presentation next week. Wish all of you and your families a wonderful Thanksgiving. Please take that time to reflect on everything we do have to be thankful for. And with that, let's go out and do some good in the world. This meeting is adjourned.